Minasan konnichiwa, annyeonghaseyo, bonjour. We are joined by Black Revelations today, and I came across him amid this fresh and fit Abba and Preach drama on my feed. He knows quite a bit about psychology, and he has so gracefully agreed to join us for an interview. I want to say a big welcome to you, and we really want to know, how did you get so deep and so interested in psychology?
You know what? It's funny, and thank you for having me. This is an honor. I really greatly appreciate it. This is awesome, very professional setup. I really appreciate this, and hopefully we can do this again at some point. You know what I'm saying? That would be great,
Definitely.
But one of the ways that I became familiar with psychology is because I noticed that I have a brain and a lot of other people don't. So I had to figure out what was going on. One of the first things where I dealt with psychology was I have a master's in business. So in business, you learn a lot about psychology because in business, there's a lot of areas where you have to understand people's minds. Human resources, you have to understand people's minds. Marketing, you have to understand people's minds. So economy, you have to understand people's minds. You have to understand purchasing patterns and different things like that, behavior. So there's a lot of psychology classes that you take to end up getting a bachelor's in business and then a master's in business, which is what I have. And then later on in my life, I became a nurse. And as a nurse, you have to take a lot of other psychology classes as well. And one of those psychology classes that I had to take was lifetime development. So lifetime development, that's the psychology where you learn about Erickson and Piaget, and that talks about from birth all the way through death. So that's some pretty interesting aspects of psychology. And then just in my general life, I deal with people on a person-to-person basis because I'm a nurse, and I deal with people who are not feeling well, people who have health issues, and you deal with the stages of grieving a lot and different things like that. And I've been in some bad relationships in my entire life. Not just bad relationships with former girlfriends, but just had issues with toxic friendships. My parents are wonderful parents, but every child has their issues growing up. You can learn about that with Piaget and Erickson and lifespan development. So what I try to do is all the education that I have, I try to use my education and apply it to my normal life. Because when you live in the United States, you can be a smart and intelligent individual. You can have all the paperwork that's necessary to show how much better or smarter you are than the people that you went to school with. And for some invisible reason, it'll still give you a difficult time finding a good job or a good position. So for my sake, the education that I spent the most money on, which was my business education, my bachelor's and my master's, I don't utilize it because I work as a nurse. So I try to take that education and apply it towards myself since I'm not using it, because I feel kind of annoyed with spending like $60,000 on education that I'm not using to get any money back. Like that's a bad purchase. And I try to make good decisions. You know what I'm saying? So, and as I started to examine myself, you start to read things, and I start to examine mistakes that I made, like some of the bad relationships, and where could I have understood things. And a lot of times, and this may sound kind of weird, but a lot of times in relationships, I always am in the relationship thinking that it's my fault. And then when I start looking things up online, or when I start figuring things out or reading things, from the information that I read and warning signs that I get, I come to find out that a lot of these times it's not really me that's the problem. It's the other person. And there's warning signs that I can identify to help me not be involved with people like that anymore. And when I learned those warning signs, that helped me find a good relationship like the one that I'm in now. That was a
Incredible
loaded
story.
answer. I'm sorry.
Please, all loaded answers are welcome, and I it really shows me how you definitely have a gift. Having such an analytical mind and ability to take on a diverse skill set is an incredible thing. And I do think your master's degree in business and that combination with nursing has really primed you to be an incredible YouTuber, because you have a lot of different things to share and you can look at things from different perspectives, which sadly isn't a skill many people have. Many people only know one way of doing things and just living in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And I must commend you on that. That is incredible. And I like how not only that, but you are also very deep in, it's got a kind of cringe connotation to say now, but red pill sort of content.
Well, it's not the
Mm,
only, okay, so it's interesting that you say that, right? Red pill, remember how we were talking earlier before you started recording? And I said, all of these different systems, they're all the same thing, but they just have a filter on them. Red pill is nothing more than a filter. It's concepts that you're already familiar with, but it's just repackaged. Now you notice that there's nobody that's really going around talking about psychological damage that people have or personality traits. But if you listen to a lot of these things, they kind of cross over, they overlap. What is red pill? What is that? What does red pill mean? Do you know what red pill means when it comes to dealing? Because there's a lot of different red pills. That's one thing that a lot of people don't understand. There's a red pill that's associated with the alt-right and racism and different things like that. And then there's red pill when it comes to quote relationships. Then there's black pills and all this different stuff, right? Now, the thing is what do people always say? People always say if you do the same thing and expect different results, then it's what?
madness.
Right. So what these people are saying is that if you are allegedly treating women allegedly the same way, yet expecting different results from different women, you haven't woke up to the quote unfortunate, uncomfortable truth of a female nature. So what they're basically saying is that people who are blue pilled are practicing insanity because they're not implementing into their process the female nature per se female nature.
Totally. It is such a tricky thing because for some people, the blue pill works just fine. And
But
for some
but does it?
people,
But does it? Does any of it work? I'll tell you what, nobody knows. You know why? Because psychologists don't know about these pill things, and the people who make the pills up are not certified psychologists and they're not certified counselors. They don't even have as much experience in psychology as me. Just because you walk around half your day being a psychopath doesn't mean that you're a psychiatric guru.
mm,
You know what I mean? So you basically just have anybody that I'm just gonna declare that I'm a guru.
mm,
I'm a guru at this, and I'm gonna tell everybody how to do everything. Okay, well, where's your credentials?
mm,
I've had 6 or 7 relationships. Okay, well, where's the empirical evidence that shows that this works? I need like a sample. I need a control group. I need to know, the locality of all of your statistical, participants in this experiment. How do I know that these methodologies work? Well, there's really no way. It's abstract. Now, the thing that I find interesting is the uncomfortable truth, right? This uncomfortable truth is supposed to be about female nature. Or uncomfortable truth is supposed to be that black people have an inherently low IQ. That's why you see a lot of these white nationalists, white supremacists who are the red pill coaches, because they just know every damn thing. We just know women are just emotional, and we know that black people are dumb as hell. So if we can get, people to understand about women, and then if we can get black people whipped into shape, then maybe society will run better. And that's why those things go hand in hand. All of those people, especially the white guys, you know what I'm saying? Like the black dudes, I think they're just trying to get some ass. But like the white dudes, there's a more nefarious purpose. And the nefarious purpose is that this is just some repackaged buck breaking and Sambo factory manufacture. That's it.
very, I think we've really opened up a can of worms and we can really go into it in detail. Now, I like how we started off talking about psychology, but we can also segue a little bit into racism.
Yeah, because
And
racism is psychological warfare.
there we go. And I think in a way, all these things are kind of related.
They are.
And yeah, if I had to look into uh, just racism in general, My personal belief is that race itself is a societal construct.
What is construct? Wait, let's stop. Stop.
Mm,
I love when people say, well, race is nothing but a construct.
there we go. Yeah.
But these are the same people that sit there and talk about the red pill, right?
Mm,
When when Morpheus and Neo were
mm,
in that scene right after he had taken the red pill, what did he say? This is a program that mimics the construct
mm,
that makes up the Matrix.
mm,
So a construct is the way that your mind organizes outside stimuli before it processes it inside. The construct. This is the pre-construct to the Matrix. When they did the exercise where Neo and Morpheus had that famous fighting scene, this program is made with a construct similar to the Matrix. Sexism is made with a construct similar to racism. See where I'm going?
definitely. And the reason why I, at least when I opened my eyes to it, when I was younger in high school, I thought there were maybe three races. There was black, white, and other. And as I learned more about the history of the African continent, and not that I have the full story or the little pieces that I've seen, is there was a continent of many, many, many different types of people, different languages, different DNA, and for the longest time, there was no black person. They were just people from different tribes, and certain tribes mixed together. Other ones split up and became different things. And so, myself being South African, I'm a Zulu, and the Zulu tribe came from a bigger tribe called the Bantu tribe. And they were nomadic people that traveled through different parts of Africa. And because of also the African environment, there weren't islands. It was a massive piece of land. Some part had mountains, some part had beaches. So if there was an opposing tribe, different things could happen when these different people interacted with each other. They could either go to battle, or they could avoid each other, or they could trade. And as time went on, the idea of race, different types of people in different race, they changed through time. They would be called different things, or they moved around. And now the Horn of Africa, right at the Horn of Africa, and even right at the tip, is where now ships used to come through, and they had to pass through this way to trade with India. So they'd go from Europe, go all the way around. And in those days, a trip, the people who you traveled with, some just stayed behind, and you arrived at your destination with completely different people. And when Europeans first started interacting with Africans, and even Chinese ships used to come by, some would just stay and they'll just be left there, and they'll mix with the people, and all types of things happened. And those people also got given a new name. And so my whole idea of race is, again, it's ever changing. Now globally, a person of dark skin or of African origin, they'll call you, a black person. But if you were to come to Africa, you just see all shapes and sizes and languages and all these things, and you'd be like, oh, wait a minute, within the black people there are multiple races too. And even within those things, my understanding of what causes racism initially, it's almost like it's resource competition. When the first Europeans came to Africa, the people who could have opposed them from just taking over everything were the people already there. So they had to find a system, a sort of psychological warfare to
There
split
you
these
go.
people up and rule with them. And
Exactly.
black people use racism too. It's an animal tool, it's a human tool. And even when I've stayed in other countries where there are no black people and are no white people, among Asian people have their own racism too. And at the root of all of it, it's always resource competition. You want
Yeah,
what they have, you want their women, and you want to defeat them psychologically when you can't defeat them physically. And the
exactly.
interesting thing about the African continent at that time, the African people, because they had so much food, they had so much sunshine, especially when you look at just by the equator and the people who live there. Guys are huge. These are your ancestors and your precursors to your Ronnie Colemans and your Michael Jordans. And when Europeans saw them, they had been starving in Europe, running away from famine, and they were just and religious persecution. So when they came to Africa and they saw these huge people, they couldn't fight them hand to hand. They had to use tools. They had to, and also psychological warfare was such a powerful, important thing. And if you look at some of the, if I could say, the worst predators to the African continent, they were particular Europeans who had mastered racism. And they learned racism in their own continent. One of the worst. I look at the man as the devil. He was like Germany as Hitler, the Belgian Leopold. He was lethal when he encountered the Congo. The damage he did, to this day, we're trying to revert, just trying to get back to normal. He set the Congo so far backward that, and one of the things about him, he was like an incredible strategist. He used to kill certain African tribes and leave the mark of different African tribes, so the African tribes would fight each other, and he would just come through and beat the winner. He devastated the Congo. It was
That's and what's hilarious is that that same methodology is still being used today.
mm, it
It's still
is,
being it's still being done today.
and it works because we're human beings. That's how
Well,
racism works on human beings. It's been used
it
throughout
works
history.
because it works because when you have one segment of society that developed racism as a survival instinct,
Mm,
and you have another segment of society that doesn't quite understand how that works because they're not equipped with it as a survival instinct, what ends up happening is there has to be an evolution process, or there has to be some kind of reprogramming of defense mechanisms for that.
mm. And it's going to
And-
continue happening. Like today, it's going to be this type of racism. Next thing, it's going to be, okay, red pill versus feminists. This versus, it's all resource competition. Everyone is trying to find a sort of psychological warfare to sort of draw a line in the sand and get people fighting. And
yeah.
we have to wise up to it and realize, wait a minute, we're all caught in this pattern of behavior. At
Well,
least that's my understanding of racism.
no, you absolutely. I agree, and that's why the best thing to do is to walk away. You know,
Always.
try to find a group of like-minded people, and those people don't have to be the same race. You know, they can be just like-minded people. You know, because every white person not a bad person. You know what I mean? And you know, everybody that's not white isn't a good person. But you know, basically, what you need to do is you need to find people of a like mind, and if you are people of a like mind, then at that point, nothing, just none of that stuff matters. Your skin doesn't have to matter. None of that has to matter, because if you're of a like mind and you're of a truth and justice, you know, good heart, then your values and your code of values will be the guide. So like, you don't have to even worry about it.